Ooh. Hey, well, welcome everybody to 1 Million Cups. We are grateful that you joined us today. 1 Million Cups, as you all know who are watching this, is an entrepreneurial pep rally. And though we're not able to be together as we're practicing our social distancing, we're able to join you with Zoom here with our presenters and organizers, but also on Facebook Live. And so we're just grateful that you're here with us today. I want to remind you, if you've got your app, you can check in on the 1 Million Cups app. You can check in on Facebook, all different kinds of places to let us know that you are participating with us this morning. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, I want to take a couple minutes and thank. We typically have a coffee sponsor, coffee roaster, a couple of other folks we want to talk about. So I want to say thanks to Mackenzie Schultz. He's joining our call, and he's with Eagle and Crane Coffee Roasters. He's the one who has provided our coffee for the last year or so down at the warehouse. And the warehouse is our typical location sponsor, so we want to always keep them in mind. We know that the the restaurant industry has obviously been hit pretty hard, and so we want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. And as soon as this whole thing is over, we all need to get down to the warehouse and go get some food from them for sure. We also want to thank our cup sponsors. So if you got, hey, organizers, can you hold up your cups, your beautiful cups? We want to thank our cup sponsors, the SBDC and the Better Business Bureau here in Colorado Springs. We're very, very grateful for them. If you got your coffee, let's take a sip together and we can get started today. Delicious. Loving it. All right. Well, our first presenter this morning is Lauren Ferrara, and she is with Why Wait Stories. And she is a entrepreneur who's gone from news anchor to filmmaker, and she's going to share about that journey and what she's doing now. So, Lauren, with no further ado, please take it away with your 6-minute presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you 1 Million Cups for letting me do this. I'm Lauren Ferrara. I am a news anchor turned filmmaker, and I just founded Why Wait Stories. And I just actually launched on Thursday, which I know sounds like an absolutely crazy thing to do right now, but there's a really good reason I chose that day, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. But a little bit about me, I have been in broadcast journalism for 13 years. Most recently, I was the evening anchor at Fox 21 here in the Springs. Before that, I was a weekend anchor in Nashville, Tennessee. I was a reporter in Las Vegas and a reporter in West Texas. And about 4 years ago, my purpose sort of changed. And that's when my dad passed away. He was a physician. He was an entrepreneur. He always worked for himself. And I think he would have been really excited to see me do the same. So that's why I launched on Thursday. That was what would have been his 72nd birthday. But he died of esophageal cancer in 2016. And when he passed away, can you guys still hear me? Something disconnected on my headset. Okay. When he passed away, I hired a videographer. And at the time, my mom was like, "You did what?" That's not what nice Southern ladies do. We don't hire a videographer to come to a funeral. And I just told her, this is something I really need to do, and this is important to me. So I had him come to the funeral, and dozens of people sat down and told incredible stories. And they're stories that I never would have heard had I not done that. And now I turned it into this hour-long film that I watch on his birthday every single year. And at the time, it was just for me, for my sisters, for my mom. I didn't think about this being a business. I'm going to actually change headset. I'm going to take this off because it's talking in my ear. Can you guys still hear me if I take this off? Okay, awesome. So I had this videographer come. Now I have this amazing film, and it is my most treasured possession. And I tell everybody they definitely do this when somebody they love passes away. But again, it wasn't a business at that time. A couple months later, though, do we need to come closer? Closer? Can you still hear me? Okay. A couple months later, I think I have a microphone open somewhere. A couple months later, a friend of mine lost her baby brother. He was 30. He was an Air Force Academy graduate. He was a fighter pilot in awesome health, or so we thought, and his heart just stopped. And what broke my heart the most was he left behind a 6-month-old baby girl. and this little girl will have no memory of her dad. So I told my friend what I did, and I said, look, everybody who loves your brother is going to be in one place at one time, and this will never happen again. You have this short window, and the only thing this little girl is ever going to know about her dad are the things that people say about him. So I encouraged her to do this in Ohio, and she found somebody, but it was really hard to find somebody. It's hard to find somebody, A, with those skills, B, with enough emotional distance from the family that they can do this and do it well. And that's when I realized that broadcast journalists are exceptional in this way. We are comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have permission to have the kind of conversations that most people don't seem to have permission for. We talk politics and religion and all those things you're not supposed to talk about in polite company. And journalists are very special in a lot of ways. I mean, if you think about it, we knock on people's doors on the very worst day of their life. So I thought, after Stephen Grace died, I thought, this is something people need. They don't know they need it, but they need it. And I know I can do it really well. So I have a couple packages to do just that. And one of them is called the Life Well Lived package. And that's exactly that, what we did at my dad's funeral, a compilation of interviews about the person who passed away. And I did this recently for a friend's husband's funeral, who also died way too soon. He was only 41. And 40 people sat down and told the funniest stories. And I would go from, when I was editing it together, I'd go from crying and laughing and then crying and then laughing. And they were just wonderful stories that really painted a picture of who he was, the impact he left on his family, his community, and the world. And his kids are young. They're in elementary school and middle school, and they can look back at this decades from now. I mean, it makes me so sad to think they'll live most of their life without their dad. But they can look back at this and know what an impact he made. So that's the Life Well Lived film. I also do the Legacy film, and that's basically a movie about somebody's life, a deep dive interview, interweaving their photos and family videos and heirlooms from their life, about an hour-long film with people who are living, which is really great, because, I mean, the whole point of this is why wait? Why wait till the very end to capture these stories? And then I also do mini sessions. Now, in a non-coronavirus world, I'm really excited about this, because basically I would set up shop all day long with a videographer at a retirement home or a high school or a venue and do little half-hour interviews with people. And these all have themes. And one of the themes is the story of us, about couples. And I'm planning on doing that ahead of Valentine's Day, sitting down with couples, talking about how they met, their first impressions, their dating, marriage, the whole thing. Oh, am I done?
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Thank you. That you got your
That's 6 minutes? Oh, all right. That goes very quickly. All right.
Yeah.
So I've got my little headset. Now I can actually hear you.
All right, great. Well, now we're going to move into our Q&A. So 20 minutes or so of questions. And
okay.
we have those from the audience here and those on Facebook. So does anybody want to start with our first question today? Go ahead, Rihanna.
Lauren, can you show us an example of the videos that you do?
Yes, yes, I will definitely do that. I think I need to turn this off again. And sorry, I missed that. Okay, pulling up a video. Oh, no, I need to do screen share, right? There, okay. And then can you guys see my screen right now?
Now we can.
Okay. Can you hear it?
No.
The New York Times, or
yes,
SAT prep books, and he and I would exchange our opinion on what the author's intent of the column that they'd written was, and we'd have there would always be some debate, and at the end of it, he'd always say, you know, we're going to be two erudite young men as a result of this work. And that was the goal of our meeting that day. You know, my SAT score, you know, that was important too, but not as important as he and I being erudite young men.
We signed him up for Facebook, and he wasn't very good with computers or anything like that. So we signed him up for Facebook, and he called me and he said, "Lauren, I sent you a telegram on the Face website."
And I really became a spiritual mentor for him. And I coached him and taught him. And what else?
Yeah. So that was the one we did at my dad's funeral. And that's when, yeah, before I ever thought about this being a business. Now they have 2 cameras always, and always professional lighting.
The DA's office released video from the investigation of Christopher Watts.
Yikes.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Ferrara. And Fox 21 local news right now. The search continues for missing.
Hello? There's my demo reel from
You
News.
sounded like Megyn Kelly.
It's on YouTube. So sorry about that. That's not what I'm doing right now. So yeah, they all have 2 cameras right now. They have professional lighting and always broadcast journalists that are asking the questions. And I have broadcast journalists all over the country, so I can literally do this anywhere, even at this point. And one thing I didn't mention in my 6 minutes that I really wanted to is it is free for terminal cancer patients. We do the mini sessions for free because I know I would give a kidney to go back and actually ask those questions with my own father. So, yeah, some people are gonna have to say goodbye soon, and I just wanna be able to do that for them.
Well, that's awesome. Can you tell us, Lauren, how many videos you've done so far, and kind of where you've done those around the country?
Yeah, so here I haven't done them around the country yet. That's the plan. I have journalists that are like ready to hop on board, and actually most of them are people I've worked with in the past who've now spread out all over the country, and a lot of them have actually lost their parents to terminal cancer. So that's why they're excited to do it. But I've done 3 legacy films, which is with and all of them have been ladies in their 80s or 90s. They wanted to do it for their birthdays. Actually, one did it for their 90th birthday, 2 others did it for their 80th, and they want to give it to their children. So those are about hour-long films. One of them, and a theme kind of emerges from all of them, which I think is cool. Like one lady was talking about how lucky she was in marriage, kids, life, career. So the theme woven throughout the film is luck. And then another one talked about mostly her travels, and she'd been to 80 different countries, and she told those stories. And I think it's super cool to hear people talk about where they were during historical moments. And one of the ladies was in London during the Blitz, and she remembered it. And another had a pet duck, and she was talking about Pearl Harbor and comforting her pet duck and telling her all about it. So it's just so cool to hear those historical moments from people we know and love. And then I've done 2 Life Well Lived films, and then 2 mini sessions. And yeah, the mini sessions I did kind of as little practice to see how that would look like, or how that would look. And my hope is to start going into retirement homes in the next kind of months out from now, retirement homes, and doing the highlight reel as one of my mini sessions. I'd like to do that at retirement homes.
Okay. I think Bob has a question. Go ahead, Bob.
So have you, I mean, like your mom, right, had a little hesitation because that's not how we do things as a funeral. Have you run into that? I know you're just launching, but what's your strategy, or have you run into that mindset, and how do you overcome that? Because I remember at my mom's funeral, just taking pictures was like, oh my God, you never take pictures of the casket, and you never, I mean, and that was 20 years ago, right? Have you run into that kind of mindset? Have you seen that change a little bit?
I've seen it change. Like anytime I've told people about this, that everybody says, I want that, and I've never thought about it. And when I did one at my friend's husband's funeral, I just called her and I said, I'm going to say something weird, just say yes. and she didn't think it was weird at all. She thought it sounded great. And she actually posted it to Facebook, and she said it was the greatest thing anybody had ever done for her. So, I think it's when somebody dies, it's they write an obituary, they book a funeral, and they have a little reception afterwards. They don't think about doing this. So I kind of want to plant it in people's minds now. So I feel like I'm trying to sell to people that they haven't thought of before, which is tricky. But this was before I even left Fox 21. I'd been working on this, and somebody came up to me and she was like, "You're Lauren Ferrara, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah," about to say like, "Thanks for watching. I really appreciate your viewership." And she goes, "Somebody told me about what you're doing, and I wish I could go back in time." She lost both of her parents around the same time. And yeah, when you're kind of busy with grieving and planning a funeral, this isn't something you think about. So I'm trying to get people to think about it, months, years ahead of time.
Joe, you got a question?
Hey, Lauren, thanks for what you're doing. I lost my dad to cancer about a year before your story there, and I wish this was in place. I've heard a thing about StoryCorps. I'm really curious though about kind of what's your business model. Obviously doing it for free for cancer patients. That's more of a charity kind of a thing, but you obviously have a lot of overhead with cameras and editing and all that kind of stuff in your time. How are you putting this together so you can keep it going and grow it over time?
So my overhead is low. Right now I'm working out of my home, and I don't own a camera. I hire photographers, and people say like, what kind of camera do you want? I'm like, I want the camera that the photographer loves and knows how to use. I always use the analogy with people like having a knife doesn't make you a surgeon any more than having like the best camera in the world makes you a filmmaker. My overhead isn't super high. Here in the spring, I'm trying to really focus here in the springs, and my plan is to do 2 legacy or Life Well Lived films a month in this first year, and then 6 mini sessions. 6 mini sessions a year where I would book out the whole day, retirement homes, ahead of Valentine's Day. I also have one that's about the arrival of a child. So promote those on Facebook, and then start reaching out to other markets, starting with ones that I've worked in, Nashville, Las Vegas, and Lubbock, Texas, and find journalists there and try to replicate it all over the place. So.
Nice. I think Jeff was our next in the queue.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Lauren, first off, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that when you and I talked a while back, you had a lot of touching moments to share about your dad that 6 minutes can't capture. But you also told me about, a couple of folks who you've done videos for. One, I believe you said, was a World War II survivor, and the other woman was able to do a special trick with the piano. Can you share a couple of
yes, one of them, her name was Sue, or is Sue. She did this for her 80th birthday, and she was the one was super well traveled, and she lived in London, and she was 3 years old during World War II, but she remembers bombs going off. She remembers seeing soldiers or airmen land in her backyard. So she was telling the story. I just thought that was so fascinating. And then so I also did one with, she's 90 years old, and this woman has worked out for pretty much every single day of her life. And she was even telling stories about her father, like physical fitness was really important. So she's 90 and she does like sit down real quick. I mean, as if like I can't even sit down and get up that fast. She stops down and plays the piano backwards and hops back up and like continues the conversation. So yeah, it's just, I mean, the thing I loved about journalism was I didn't love the being on TV thing, but I did love sitting on some sofa and just finding out who they were, what made them tick. And so, I mean, this is just like my dream job.
So I've got a question just about kind of the business side, cost, and kind of what you're doing to market, get yourself out there, get exposure for the business. And like, you made the point that you're trying to help people buy something that they don't know that they would want or need. And so what are you focusing on to get those, to kind of answer those questions? So cost.
Yeah, just a lot of education. I mean, just telling people about the film I did for my dad. I think every single person who's lost somebody wants that. Like, I've never heard somebody say like, "Ooh, I would not want to do that." I've heard some people say like, I don't think, I almost had a film that I was doing for free for a terminal cancer patient who ended up backing out. And his issue was his kids were young too. He didn't want them to remember him that way. I mean, this was in his final days and that's not the memory he wanted to leave behind. So he ended up not doing it. So yeah, marketing, just having a whole bunch of conversations with people. I started doing Facebook ads, because I have many sessions on the books right now for May that I'm trying to get done, and they're the highlight reel, so people think about the biggest moments and memories of their life. And those will be 10, 15-minute films that I'll have for Mother's Day and Father's Day. So trying to hook on to big holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving when families are all together, and Valentine's Day. And just, I mean, the thing I tell people is like, so many of us, we don't know what to do when somebody passes away. And this is something, I can't cook. So when I can't bring anything that anybody wants to eat to somebody's house, but this is something I can do. And I think this is something, if somebody passes away, they can, friends and family can go in together. And this lasts way longer than any casserole ever will. This is something you have forever. So that's what I tell people. I'm going to start doing direct mail for a little bit after that. So I've just given Facebook and Instagram, and I have kind of two different targets: people my age with aging parents, and then older people who want to leave this for their kids. So.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, we've got a lot of Facebook viewers and they definitely want to connect with you. So I know you'll go to that feed after today's meeting and answer more questions there. And a lot of people want to know how they can, we have a special question, but Heather on Facebook is asking, what do you see as your biggest challenge in business now or in the future? I'm sure they all want to help you navigate that. Is really why she's asking that.
So my biggest challenge is, getting people to buy something they haven't thought to buy before. And it's bringing a service. It is videography and editing takes a long time, and it's not cheap. So maybe a little bit of sticker shock, but I think it's just best. I mean, I know hiring the videographer at my dad's wake was the best money I ever spent in my entire life. So that's my biggest challenge, but I think I can overcome it.
Are there any other Facebook questions, Sam?
I'll hop into the chat and let you know, but I think actually I had a question. I know that the 6 minute does go very fast, and I was really interested if you could answer quickly what the end of that was. I don't know how close to.
Oh, I was very close. Okay, so I have the 3 mini sessions: the highlight reel, the story of us, the story of you, and senior portraits. And senior portraits are for seniors in high school and college. So these are 15 minutes. I have all on my website, like what those different packages look like. That's whywaitstories.com. And then, I also wanted to say that it is free for terminal cancer patients. I do want people to reach out if they know somebody that could use this.
Any other questions from our organizers about this awesome service that we're talking about today?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Brandy. You're up.
Explain the process for applying for these types of videos, especially the terminal cancer ones. How does one reach out to?
Directly on my website, I have a giving. I think it's under Giving Back. There's a little button, share your story. And I mean, my goal is to say yes to every single person who reaches out.
Thank you.
Very cool. You know, I think I talked to you a little bit, several, maybe a month or two ago, about this for, you know, my grandparents. We had a big family reunion planned for July. I don't know if it's gonna happen at this point, but yeah, can you just talk more about, I think so you're trying to sell something that people don't know if they want. Why is this a meaningful thing, and what are some other benefits maybe that this would have for folks who want to do it, and across the board, whether it's the terminal cancer one, it's the legacy videos, like what are some other highlights and benefits that people would reap from actually taking the next step and doing this with their family?
So why I'm so glad, I watch my dad's film every year on his birthday, but my daughter was 5 months old when he died, and my other daughter wasn't born, and they're a little young to watch that right now, but I'm like, oh, in a couple years, I can show them who JJ was and what people loved about him. And I think that's why I did it. And I think that's the most valuable part of it, that this lasts for generations.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I know there's some cool services, Legacy Box and some other things that are helping to kind of fill in this space. But I think what you're offering is a really unique and cool thing that no one else that I've heard of is really doing. So that's an amazing thing. Mac, you want to ask our super special question as we wrap up here with Lauren?
I would be honored to. What can we, as a Colorado Springs community, do to help you?
A couple of things, actually. So I do have mini sessions on the books that I'm doing ahead of Mother's Day and Father's Day. Those are the 10-15-minute films. If you go on my website, you can click in and read about those. They're $850, and that's a 10-15-minute film with your mom or dad. And then any connections with retirement homes and funeral homes that you could make, I'd be super appreciative. And lastly, and this is something I want everybody to kind of promise me that they'll do when they're holed up at home, we're all slowing down and doing things a little different. And I think taking a minute to, realize we all have a certain number of days and minutes and years on this earth, and some of our loved ones are going to go soon. Take your phone out. Ask that question that you're going to regret not asking, and get it on video. You can record your screen. I just want everybody to do that with somebody they love in the next month. So pick a day on your calendar and do that. Save it to your phone. You'll have it forever, and I think you'll be really grateful.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren. We really appreciate you sharing your story with us, and we obviously are biggest cheerleaders for you and for entrepreneurship in the city, and so we will definitely, as we can, be a cheerleader for you going forward. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I'd like to take some time just to recognize our organizers. Our organizers are here all on the screen. Can you guys raise your hands, say hello to everybody? Hey, there we go. If you have any interest in what it means to be an organizer here with 1 Million Cups, we'd love to have a conversation with you. We have a kind of a 2-year rotation, a 2-year rotation, and some of us are rotating off in the near future. And so if that's something that you're interested in, we'd love for you to just come have a conversation with us. No promises, no guarantees or anything like that, but just if you want some information, we'd love to share that with you. Also like to recognize a couple of folks who are not on our feed, but who are great alumni organizers, James Proby, Frank Sinclair, a couple other guys who we missed not having around doing our social distancing 1 Million Cups, but great guys. And if you see them or know them, I should give them a shout out during these crazy times, because they could, obviously all of us could use some encouragement. Last thing I'd like for you guys to do, if you're watching this, is just tag us on Facebook. Go to our Facebook page. Once again, use your phone and connect with our 1 Million Cups app. Again, just let us know that you're here. We would greatly appreciate that very much. All right, with that out of the way, do we have any community announcements, things that we want to have from our community organizers about things that will be helpful for the 1 Million Cups crew to know about? So go ahead and give me a raise hand and I'll call on you. We'll go Joe Locke first, please.
All right, thanks, Josh. For the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce, they have gone online and they have reinstigated all of their normal networking functions as well as information getting out across the community. The first one is tomorrow, April 9th. It's all online. You can go on and register, another Zoom event. But it is Chamber Connect specifically to address loan processing and some of the other SBA interim final rule interpretations and stuff to get that out to small business owners. The next one that is good is next Thursday, April 16th, and that's a business briefing talking about mental health during times of crisis, you know, how you can help your employees, how you can help each other stay a little bit more grounded during a challenging time, especially for our extroverts who are enduring social isolation. So I look forward to seeing you guys all there.
Oh, Brianna, go ahead.
Hey everybody, just to plug the SBDC, the Pikes Peak SBDC, they are the first to know and the first to disseminate information in regards to any of these SBA programs, as well as state initiatives and federal initiatives. Go over to the SBDC's, Pikes Peak SBDC's website and check that regularly. We also had a question on Facebook. Sam, I can't remember who it was from, if you want to jump in and let the viewers know who asked this question, but they essentially asked, has anybody applied for the loan and has anybody received funding for or within the loan process? So here's the deal. The feds are overwhelmed. My husband and I did submit applications for our businesses underneath the EIDL, Emergency Injury Disaster Relief Program. Anyways, so with this program, you're supposed to receive a $10,000 advance, potentially up to a $10,000 grant. How that works is they will deposit that money into your account within 3 days of processing your application. Keep in mind that processing is the key word. When my husband and I applied, we compared our application numbers to someone who applied the day before us. It was 27-hour gap. There was a half a million number difference. So that means 500,000 businesses applied for this loan in a 27-hour period. So they're overloaded and they're overwhelmed. They've got a lot to process. So it is going to take a little bit of time just to even see that advance. And then on the Paycheck Protection Program, which is a completely separate program. So there's two programs underneath the CARES Act. You've got the EIDL, then you've got your Paycheck Protection Program. That is all dependent on your lender. It's in conjunction with the SBA, but it is really dependent on your lender. So you have to work closely with your lender. There is a likeliness that you might be able to get the full loan, which hopefully is a forgivable loan if you apply 75% of those funds towards payroll. But it still will take a little bit of time. Your lenders are now overwhelmed too. So just keep that in mind and be patient through this process. Everybody is working so hard. I believe the local SBA added 90 employees just in the past 2 weeks. So not only are they adding employees, but they've got to train them up and get them up to speed. And so it's going to take a little bit of time. We haven't heard of a single person in the Pikes Peak region receiving funds just yet, at least within our businesses. I don't know if the Pikes Peak SBDC has, but I have yet to hear of anybody receiving funds, but it's coming. Thank you.
Cool. Any other community announcements? All right, with that, we will introduce our second speaker. His name is David Prosper. It's with Shepherd Revolution. And how he wanted me to introduce him was first and foremost as a child of God, which I can appreciate as a fellow child of God. And I'm going to let him talk about his organization and what he's doing to make a difference in the lives of people, equipping, engaging, and empowering them. So, David, with that said, please take it away for your 6 minutes.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. So first and foremost, give glory to God. Secondly, who am I? And why did I start this journey of trying to empower people? Well, very similar to Lauren's story, and that's a great person to follow up. My mother battled cancer, and it was colon cancer, and she fought the good fight. And I remember one day, my mom was saying on her hospice bed, she said, "I didn't do enough. I didn't do enough." And I looked at my mom and I said, "Mom, why are you crying? What do you mean you didn't do enough?" And what she said back was, "I had all of these dreams and all of these goals that I didn't aspire to, that I didn't achieve." I was like, "What do you mean, Mom? Like, you got 3 Black kids who are not in jail. You hit the lottery, Mom. Like, you are good to go." And she started laughing because it's true. And but what stood out to me was my mother was 56 years old. And that's a very young age. So it became this driving force. So before she left, I said, "Mom, okay, I'm unable to buy you that house that I promised you as a little boy because your baby boy is broke right now. But what can I do right now for you?" My mother said, "Teach the youth." And I was like, "Mom, I don't even like kids. What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Teach the youth." And that stuck with me. And over the journey, I've learned that to change our world, we have to first influence our kids and our youth. And what we get to do at Shepherd Revolution Leadership Academy is equip, empower, and educate the youth to transform their lives and the lives of those around them. And the beautiful part is we just started. We started in January, and I honestly believe, and I'm extremely biased, that I've recruited and assembled the Avengers who will change the face of education and change the way how we lead. I have 11 teammates, partners who are walking alongside of me to literally change how we educate. And how we do it differently from what we've already experienced is teaching students not just what to learn, but how to learn. And the beautiful part about this is we learn through experience, not just being told what to do, but being involved in what to do. And how we're going to do it different. Typically, classrooms are very, you're facing the back of someone's head and the teacher's in front. And we're going to flip it on its entire head. We're going to create our classrooms in circular forms, and it's going to be in a circle. So everyone's going to be making eye contact, because I truly believe that we are in a world that we are socially connected, but emotionally disconnected. And especially during this time when we're socially supposed to be distant, we can still be emotionally connected. And I believe the eyes is a gateway to the soul. And instead of the teacher naturally leading the classroom, the teacher would actually be facilitating the classroom, where the students will be empowered to actually lead from a different way. And the difference that makes in a child's life is mind-blowing, because we will have students grow up confident, and we will be the prevention versus intervention on the back end. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we truly believe that when leaders get better, communities get better, families get better, governments get better, churches get better, and ultimately the world gets better. And it starts in the home. It starts with our education. And that's the crusade that we're taking off, and how Shepherd Revolution essentially evolved with the name itself. I was reading the Bible one day, in Matthew 9, verse 36. And Jesus was looking at the people, and he said, they're the sheep without a shepherd. And I was like, shepherd, what does shepherd mean? Shepherd means to guide, to lead, to nurture, to protect. I was like, what if leaders led like a shepherd, to guide, to lead, to nurture, and to protect? How much better off would people be? And then I was like, okay, how did Jesus lead? I was like, he led a revolution. And now the word revolution, the first definition of revolution, essentially means to overthrow a government. That's not what we're doing. I'm going to nip that in the bud. Another definition of revolution essentially means a shifting of paradigm. Shifting of paradigm, changing the way we think. And if you look at the word revolution, 1 minute. If you look at the word revolution, backwards, it's actually spelled love. So we're going to practice leading through love. And I truly believe that love is the emotional oxygen that gives us life and is fundamental to human development. And when we can teach and lead through love, what world can we create? And with that being said, I think I hit my time.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, David. Really appreciate your passion. Obviously, you have a great passion for what you're doing. I think, to start off the question, I'd just like to hear a little bit more about you. You talked about, your mom, and you said, you had three kids who were Black and not in prison, and that made everybody laugh, I think. But I'd like to hear a little bit more about your background and your story and how you got to a place of caring about education. Because you could have done a lot of different things when it came to this in terms of educating the youth, but you really kind of went directly to the education route. And I'm curious about your background, kind of your education, and why you wanted to go that direction.
For sure, great question. I would say, growing up in the public school system, I went to a predominantly Black school. And it was underfunded. And when budget cuts came in, the first thing they did was remove all the arts, all the choir, all those things. So football was my ticket as an athlete out of the projects in the hood. And what I realized was I was often told what to learn, but not how to learn. And when I went to school, when I went to college, I went to a predominantly white college. And I could not compete with my peers. So my peers would, just fly by and get an A, and I would struggle to get a C. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I know I'm intelligent. I'm able to recall the information weeks later after taking the assessment, but what's going on between now and when I take the assessment? And what I realized was, and what I felt dumb. I felt like I couldn't learn. I felt like I was not intelligent. And it really it affected my self-esteem. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to be a football player. And that didn't go, got hurt too many times. But I went to this conference and I was listening to a speaker. And that's the most powerful thing about speakers. So he transformed my life without even knowing my name. He taught me how to learn. And he taught me how to teach people how to learn. So now I was in that position. Hey, if I can learn how to learn when somebody told me I was dumb, I was incompetent, that I wasn't supposed to be here, what would happen if we actually teach students not just what to learn, but how to learn? And that education is not confined to the building, but education is confined, it's a lifestyle. And the word education essentially means to bring out. What are we bringing out of our students versus trying to pour in? And I truly believe that's why God put me on this journey.
That's awesome. That's very cool. And Jeff, you got a question, brother?
I do. David, first off, what an amazing story. Just, wow. It really kind of took my breath away, man. My question for you is what are you doing to change learning, and how are you identifying people's different learning styles, be it tactile or visual or auditory? How are you helping to identify those learning styles?
It's a phenomenal question, Jeff. I would say right now we're in our pilot program, our pilot launch. So we're doing a summit first, a youth global leadership summit. And we're in the process of applying for our online curriculum. So to answer that question, I have my team, we would have the students take an assessment to understand what styles of learning they learn from. So there's the visual, the audio, the kinesthetic. Those are how we receive information. And then how we teach information is through experience. So having the student be involved in the process, that changes things versus just being told what to do. So they will do a profile.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, David, I have a question for you. You said you had 11 team members that work with you, and you've only been doing this since January?
Yes.
How did you find these people, and how did you get them on board with the mission?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of prayer. And those times where I pray to God and I say, show me who you want me to work alongside of. And then vision casting. Oftentimes I share this vision with others and they're just like, oh, cool, I'm excited. Okay. How can I get involved? I was like, great question. I don't know how, but we'll figure out how. But the beautiful part is that I realize that when we have a vision that is beyond the individual and that affects all of us, not just myself, not just you, but the entire world, people buy into it. Not just buy into it, they say, I see myself in that. So when essentially I asked them to come alongside and they said yes, and then we worked out a deal and I learned how to negotiate in my sales background and they said yes. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be the Apple of education and the Facebook of leadership. And I promise them that, and they're seeing the fruits of it. And it's a beautiful thing when a group of people believe in the impossible and make it possible. So I'm a huge Disney fan and I talk about the magic and things. So we'll like it.
Very cool. Rihanna, you've got a question.
I do. As a matter of fact, first I've got a statement as a mother of a daughter who suffers from multiple learning disabilities. I think you just hit the nail right on the head with teaching kids how to learn, especially kids who have a lot of odds against them. I know my daughter, we have been focusing for the last 6 years on teaching her how to learn versus what to learn. And it's made a big impact on her life. So I'm glad to see that you acknowledge that. Kudos to you. I actually have 2 questions. First, can you tell us a little bit more about the Global Youth Summit that you're getting ready to prepare and put on? How can we find more information about that? I know as a teenager or as a mother of a teenager, I'd be very interested in looking at that for my kiddo. And also tell us about the hard-hitting vision for this school. Where will it be located? What grade levels? What's that rollout and what does that look like once you get your curriculum approved and such?
Phenomenal. So thank you for the compliment. I appreciate the kind words. I would say for the Global Leadership Summit right now, if those parents are interested, it would be ages 11 to 17, and it's all online. And if you're interested, you would just go to www.shepherdrevolution.com. Our website is going to be changing. We're going to be revamping it. So that would be the first place to go. And then once the person is interested, and then we'll keep them in a loop of what's to come, because there's been a lot of movement. We were going initially in person and now we're pivoting to going online. So I would say that's the first place to go, to shepherdrevolution.com. As far as curriculum, the curriculum is going to encompass a lot of things. Leadership, first and foremost, biblical worldview. So our faith, I truly believe that when we have a moral compass that aligns us to go a way that is collectively agreed on, then we make decisions based off this standard versus our personal standard. And then as far as curriculum, we're actually in the process with application this actual week with Summit Learning. And Summit Learning originated in California. And the beautiful thing about Summit Learning is it's personalized learning. So you mentioned, your daughter having a challenge to learn. So she would learn differently, but not be in a separate room. I truly believe that when we separate those who learn differently from us, it excludes them versus include them. So she would be in the same room, or they would be in the same room, learning something differently, all online. And the beautiful thing about this program, Summit Learning, is that it's independent learning. So it challenges the student not just to regurgitate information, but to analytically and critically think about that information and to discover those things, to collaborate, to articulate, and to present. So that would be the core of it, summit learning, your math, your science, your reading, all those things, and it's K through 12. And then we would also add in our own curriculum that myself and my teammate, Kathy, who works out at St. Leo University in Florida, we're working on a leadership curriculum that we're going to present during the summit, would encompass that. And then I have another teammate who's a doctor and has her doctorate degree in organizational leadership, and she's going to be working alongside myself on the biblical worldview and developing the faith component to it. I hope that answered your question.
It does. David, thank you so much. I'm sure your mom's looking down at you so proud right now.
Jeff, I think Jeff's got another question, so roll it out, man.
I do. Thank you. David, I'm going to be a little vulnerable just as you were today. I am an adult with a learning disability. I got blown up when I was in Afghanistan and took some brain damage. And so I'm having to, now that I'm back in college, I'm having to learn how to relearn as an adult. Do you ever work with adults? And if so, how could I get involved with you?
That wasn't our initial plan, but I believe in leadership agility. And the answer is yes. And I truly believe that's been in the back of my mind. How can we help adults as well as students? But when you have a team of like 11 to 13 people casting short-term vision, instead of overwhelming everybody, like, we want to help everybody. But I truly believe in helping adults as well. And if I can give an actionable step to really transforming how you learn, is experience. So if you were to read, I'm pulling up this book right here, right? If you were to read this book, oftentimes we just see the letters off the pages, but to really transform how we retain the information is going in the story, right? So if I were to ask you about your experience in Afghanistan, you would tell me immediately, or if I ask you anything that you remember, because you were in the moment, you experienced it, and that is the way you remember it, not necessarily reading information and recalling it. So if there was any actionable stuff, I would say try being involved in what you're trying to learn, being immersed in it, and like try to think about it as you're reading it. And I truly believe we learn through pictures. So visualizing what you're reading or what you're trying to retain, and then you'll remember it a lot quickly and you'll remember it long term. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mac, I think you had a question, so go ahead.
I think Mac's question was answered actually. So yeah. I'm gonna jump in with my question, and mine's actually sort of a loaded question because I already know the answer, but how much fun are you having? Because I know that there are a few people that have reached out to you for partnership. Do you want to tell us about some of that extra fun stuff besides your team, other community people that you've already been a part of?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Sam's as well as on the team. I don't know. I'm just gonna throw that out there. She's amazing. The chamber have reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, and they just said, hey, we saw your news article on Colorado Springs Business Journal, and we love what you're doing, and we want to partner with you in some capacity, as well as Fox 21. They saw a news article from Colorado Springs Business Journal and said, hey, we want to have you on the show, which is incredible because our marketing team has not reached out to anyone, and it's truly a God thing. And we've been in conversation we're in conversation with Colorado Springs, the Switchbacks, in partnership with them, as well as been in conversation with the conservatory here in Colorado Springs. So and we have relations with District 49, who was the first one to actually grant us the facility that we would have used, but things shifted and we're moving online. So there are a lot of people, Manna Church as well. There are a lot of people and organizations that are saying yes to the cause, yes to this movement, yes to this change. And every day I'm humbled by it, and I'm grateful to God every single day because it's bigger than me. And this was just a dream. And now the people who said yes, they're making it a reality. So I give honor to him. I give honor to the people, and I'm grateful for the partnerships.
Sweet. Your awesome wife is online and she loves the way you teach. So she's asking me to prompt you to give an example of the it's like to help people learn.
Okay, so Jesus is one of the greatest teachers of all times, right? Regardless of religious beliefs, right? So he taught in parables. So if I was explaining something to you directly, Sam, if I said, hey, Sam, hey, do you know about the new law? And you would say, no, that's a bad example. If I were to say, okay, what makes a great leader, right? And you would be like, I don't know. And I was like, hey, it's like when your mom is nurturing you to health. And when you're sick and you're just like, Mom, I need you. So that's what makes a great leader, when they nurture you to health, to all that you can become. Because if we don't understand the concept that we're trying to convey, but when we use it's like, it gives us an association of what we've previously known. So we attach the meaning of this odd thing to this thing that we're familiar with, and that's how we learn. And we learn that in school, but we don't use it often enough. So when we are trying to explain something and somebody doesn't get it, we say, hey, it's like, you remember that time when we did that? And you're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. And then you get it. And we learn that's called association. And then when we associate with something, we're actually experiencing that learning. And that's how we're able to recall that meaning and understanding. And that's how we learn.
Very cool. I have a question, David, and it may be a kind of a contrarian question. How do you plan to perhaps deal with those in the community or those in your circle or around you who don't appreciate the faith-based approach to what you're doing? Because I mean that's kind of the world we live in. There's people who are really for that, like I would be, but then there's people who are like, this is not a good way to incorporate things into education. How do you talk about that with those who are maybe not so enthusiastic about that aspect of what you're doing?
It's a great question, and I've contemplated that question many times, especially with my wife. If we look back in history, when the Bible was in the educational system, and then when they removed the Bible in the educational system, crime went up, graduation went down. A lot of things that we're trying to combat with all these separate organization, it was the fact of removing the Bible. So to the people who may not agree with the faith component, I tell my team this all the time. And it comes from this verse: what is it worth a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So it doesn't cost it. My goal is not to gain the whole world and lose my soul in the cost of it. And I share with my team that we are welcoming to everyone, no matter where you're from, because love has no walls, but love does have standard. But we are not for everyone. And we are comfortable with that. And for the right people, we're a blessing. For the wrong people, we're a lesson. So, the people who align with us are meant to go on this journey and this path and to change the world. And the people who are resistant to it, then, God bless them, and we'll love them and we'll shake their hand and we won't treat them any differently. So we're welcome to everyone. I want to make
I appreciate that. Yeah.
But we're not for everyone. And I'm okay with that. Some people like beer, some people like wine. It's all is what you like.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think it's time for our last question before our super special question. Does anyone have a last question for Mr. Prosper? I'm sure he's going to prosper in his endeavor for sure after having this conversation. But anybody have a last question?
Yeah, is there time for one last question?
One more.
Okay. So since we are filming online, we are okay to talk about the coronavirus. So what changes have you had to endure due to what's happening in our world right now?
It's a great question, Sam. First and foremost, having to pivot from an in-person to an online base. And my team, my partners, they were after me, lovingly encouraged me to make a decision. And I was a little stubborn at first, and I was like, okay, one of our values is open mind. So we're moving to an online platform for the summit, and we're going to change our leadership curriculum from paper to an online. And then we're actually working on my creative team. We're working on some commercials that's going to be so freaking dope, inspired by Apple and Disney. So we're working on some commercials right now, and we're going to work on a campaign, and it's called, Shepherd Leadership, and we're going to change the way we lead through the online platform. And the beautiful thing about this pivot, because a lot of people see interruption, we see innovation. A lot of people see obstacles, we see opportunities. A lot of people see problems, we see potential. And we initially saw it just in the confinement of our zip code. This interruption has caused us to open up our world, and now it's not just limited to Colorado Springs, but it's actually open to the entire world. And that's why we're going to do the Global Youth Leadership Summit.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your story, your passion, your vision, your dreams for what God's gonna do through you guys. David, really appreciate that a lot. Hey Joe, will you ask our final question today? Would you mind doing that?
Absolutely, Josh. What can we do as a Colorado Springs community to support you?
It's a phenomenal question, Joe. Phenomenal question.
Great question.
Great setup. I would say first and foremost is the word of mouth. Right now, we're fairly new, and credibility is not what we have just yet. And we partner with others to tell their credibility train, and getting the word out as soon as we revamp our website, and just communicating to others of, hey, if this is something that you're looking to, if you're an innovator, if you're a creator, if you're a game changer, if you're a revolutionary, this is for you. And for kids, 11 to 17 for the summit. And if they meet those qualifications, if they're these people, we want them to be a part of what we're doing. So word of mouth and encouragement. I think that goes a long way, because oftentimes in a business and as an entrepreneur, we get discouraged about the mission and the vision. But encouragement to what we're doing, it goes a long way. And if anyone who's out there who's a prayer, please pray for us. Every single day we need covering.
All right. Well, I think we're all equally inspired by both Lauren and David's stories today. We're very grateful for each one of you. As we wrap up today, I just want to encourage all of you who are watching, who are in our 1 Million Cups community, small business owners, don't quit. All right, do not quit. It's a temptation. I'm a small business owner. It's a temptation to give up, to go look for a job at Costco, to go do something else in the midst of the crazy, scary times. Don't quit. There's a great book that I would recommend to you guys by retired Admiral William H. McRaven. It's called Make Your Bed. I'd encourage you to read that. It's a pretty short read, but one of the things, the first one he says is, want to change the world, make your bed, get things started your day correctly. The last one in his list is don't ring the bell. Don't be a quitter. And none of us here at the 1 Million Cups community are gonna quit on what we're doing. We're gonna encourage you each and every time that we can. We see you, whether that's through Zoom or whether that's through in person or on the phone or through email. Don't quit. Keep moving forward. Do what you can. Scrape, fight, claw. Keep moving forward when it comes to this coronavirus time. Relief will come. we'll have victory together. I know that to be true. So keep pushing forward, and we're very grateful for you. Lastly, again, I want to thank the warehouse, even though we're not there. They are a great location sponsor. If you get the chance, once this whole thing is over, please go down, get a lunch, support them. Last thing I'll say is clean up your space. You know, your mom doesn't live here. Put your coffee cups away, clean up, all that good stuff. We are so grateful once again for the community here at 1 Million Cups. I am blessed to be a part of this great organizer team, and we are just encouraged, despite the hardship, despite the crazy. We are encouraged, and we want to encourage you one cup of coffee at a time to keep moving forward. So, thank you very much. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and thank you guys again, Lauren and David. You are awesome. I really appreciate you. All right, thanks, guys.